there's some questions here. I cheat by asking myself 3 questions, which I briefly answer, and then I'll take questions for anybody. Because these are common points that are raised. Didn't the vegan pioneers, especially Watson, talk a lot about health and diet in the early years? And the answer to that is yes. And the reason for that is that they were refused by the vegetarians. They couldn't have their non-dairy section, right? And the vegetarians and their doctors, and just about everybody else, said if you go and do what you're planning on doing, you're going to die. You're all going to die. And so they had to kind of prove that human beings could survive without consuming products that are derived from our fellow animals, because that was against the medical and social norms of the day. So that was the first thing they had to prove. And then came Cross and said, okay, we've kind of got that. There was some health issues in the early days. B12 wasn't known and all that kind of stuff. So there was some issues. Haven't we been doing vegan education for many decades? The answer to that is no. A lot of people claim this to say that vegan education is not working. To the extent that we've had vegan education, we haven't had very much of it. So we're talking about the origins of vegan education being like the mid-90s, right? Although some of the early vegan pioneers, like the Hendersons, they were interested because they toured Ireland even, talking, they would say, educate yourself, this is to vegans, so you can educate others and this kind of stuff. But in terms of vegan education as we might kind of think of it today, it is really this century only that we've been doing it. And also we've not been doing much of it. We tend to think there's loads happening all the time, but in reality there's not very much, sadly. A friend of mine called Ronnie Lee, you might know the name, he co-founded the Animal Liberation Front. He's been vegan for about 53 years now. We do an internet show called Still Alive, which is his title. And he says we need vegan education all the time and everywhere and all the time, because we haven't had enough of it, And then finally, what happened to the early radicalism? Well, this goes back to social movement theory that I mentioned, and the sad thing is that this is what happens to social movements. They de-radicalize when they professionalize, and this is what's happened to the vegan society and the vegan social movement in general. For example, the definition, which is widely considered the official one. Now, some people claim that Donald Watson wrote that in 1944, and in fact you can see that on the internet, that claim. It's not true. That was written between 1979 and 1988, right, by the vegan side. And it's much more moderate than these big claims about kind of helping everyone in a sense. Although you can see elements of it still. Unfortunately, it's got the cruelty word in there, which is a shame, but at least it's got exploitation first. So exploitation of and cruelty to. Now I've seen modern day activists reverse that around and say cruelty to and exploitation of, or even take the exploitation bit out. Because sadly the vegan movement at the moment is really fixated on this welfare word, cruelty. And it's a sad thing because it doesn't really capture the heart of veganism, which is a sad thing, really.